Hey everybody, welcome back to Feisty Ferret Business. My name's Alexandra Kilworth and I'm in a different angle because Balthazar is snuggling in my lap and I do not want to move him. But if Pierre will come over, I can show him. Here's my boy. He's getting really chunky this winter. Chunky boy. But yeah, so today's video is one that I was going to do anyway, but I feel like it's more important to me now because of Balthazar's issues. If you want updates, I'm going to be posting updates about Balthazar's ongoing issues on my YouTube and on Instagram, but there's previous videos that will have more information on the details of what's going on. But like I said, it's now that all that's going on, it's important for me to talk about the signs of illness and ailments in ferrets, because like a lot of small animals, especially small like prey animals, predator, yeah, ferrets are very susceptible to a number of conditions and illnesses such as adrenal disease, lymphoma and insulinoma, and also just general issues like tumours and stomach digestion issues. So and they're very good at hiding when they're ill or not okay. So but there are some telltale signs which can be quite easily missed because ferrets are very up and down animals. It's like their weight, they fluctuates a lot. So there's a couple of different ways you can tell if something might be off, and ultimately go with your gut instinct. If something just seems off, call a vet, get a checkup appointment. Better to be safe than sorry. It may cost you money, but it's worth, like I said, just getting things checked out. Like I didn't know what Battlefield's issue was. I just thought he was more tired than usual, but it's turned out to be quite serious. So ultimately, follow your gut instinct and call a vet if you're not certain. But number one is lethargy. Ferrets aren't usually very lethargic animals. Like you do get lazy ferrets. Like Balthazar was always a lazy ferret. But and they do tend to sleep a lot, between 16 to 20 hours a day. But if you notice they're sleeping more than 20 hours a day, and when they are up and about, they're just slower, they're not as interested in playing, they're not as interested in their food, not really interacting with the other animals much, they're looking to go and sleep more rather than play. Those sort of things are signs of lethargy, and that is a telltale sign of most animals. But because of how unusual it is in ferrets, it's important to get checked out ASAP. That was the sign I had for Balfi. It's why I took him to the vet, because he went from sleeping 20 hours a day to 23 hours a day and, barely really doing anything, and that's really concerning. Definitely keep an eye on this if you're not with your ferrets very frequently. If you work and come and see them, like, for at the end of the day or beginning of the day, just keep an eye on it, and if the moment you notice anything unusual, call a vet. Second one, sort of related, is lack of appetite. Ferrets love their food. They're very food orientated. So the moment they show less interest in food, maybe they're off their treats, or if they're not eating as much, that's when you need to be concerned. Can be quite hard to tell if you've got multiple ferrets and you have food out all the time, because it can be quite hard to see how much is each ferret eating. So just try and keep a close eye. The main thing is that I'll usually be paired with lethargy and also weight loss, which is going to the next point. Weight loss. Again, this is usually a result of lack of appetite and lethargy. But yeah, it'll be usually paired with the two previous symptoms. Ferrets' weight tends to fluctuate a lot on a day-to-day basis. So you'd usually look more at their body rather than the weight on the scales, although it is good to keep an eye on that. Like if you're worried, track it every couple of days, every week, see if it's going down or if it's up and down like it should be. Whatchamacallit? But yeah, no, so with Balfi, he was always quite a chunky boy. He's always the bigger one out of the two. And he's lost almost a kilo. He was almost 2 kilos. Now he's down to like 1.1. And again, ferrets are quite odd creatures in a way that, they're not, you can feel their bones a little bit. Shouldn't be too much. But with Balfour, like if a ferret's losing weight, you will be able to tell because you'll be able to feel like their spine, their ribs, and that's not normal. You can also tell by like looking down at them if you can see like a dip and then it goes out again where the hips are. Again, not normal, so that will usually be paired with the other two symptoms. The other one is hair loss or alopecia. In adrenal disease, this is quite common for ferrets to lose hair at the base of their tail. It's a very telltale sign of adrenal disease in ferrets, but in general, hair loss on the tail it can be a bit iffy because ferrets are prone to getting rat tail, where they lose the hair on their tails, especially male ferrets. But if it's particularly towards the base of the tail or like patches of fur or general or body alopecia, definitely get that checked out. It might be nothing because ferrets do shed a lot. They might be just a bit itchy. But if it's towards the base of the tail or if it's particularly unusually large areas or odd patches, get checked out. But general like tail fur loss is not unusual. The other one is eye watering. It can be hard to tell sometimes because you don't really often get a good look at their eyes, but if their eyes are watering or if they seem like wet and mucousy around the face, that's usually a sign that they are holding in pain essentially. There's a lot of pain, but they don't really have a way to express it. They don't like cry out like cats do, for example. And yeah, it's just generally not a good sign. It's like when humans cry, something's up. You want to get it checked out. So yeah. Also behavioural changes. If you have a ferret that's usually pretty laid back, plays a little bit but generally quite chill, and suddenly they become very restless and agitated and biting, that's usually a sign that there's something wrong. Pierre, come here. That's usually a sign that something's wrong, and it's definitely something to keep an eye on, especially if they start lashing out. If they don't bite and then they're suddenly biting and scratching and getting really antsy if you try to touch them, that could be a sign that they're in pain and they just don't want you to go near them. Vomiting is another one again, but that's a fairly obvious one. If your ferret is throwing up their food, not a good sign. But ferrets have very sensitive digestion tracts, so it doesn't take much for them to chuck something back up. It could just be their esophagus is a bit irritated. But if you're worried about what the vomit looks like, if it literally just looks like they chewed their food too fast, it's come back up, might not need to be worried. But if it looks particularly odd, or if it's happening frequently along with other symptoms, get it checked out. Similarly, if there's changes in their waist, ferret feces can be a bit varied depending on like the day, really. Yeah. But if you notice it's like running in, like diarrhea, or if there's blood in it, any obvious changes that shouldn't be there, get it checked out. Pierre, why you like this? Difficulty breathing. If they are wheezing, if they're gasping, coughing, if they seem like they're struggling to breathe or breathing really quickly, that could be a respiratory issue. Again, get it checked out. And last but not least, lumps. If you can feel a lump on your ferret that wasn't there before, or you don't think should be there, be safe and get checked out by a vet. Vets can feel a ferret up properly enough to see if it's definitely out of place or if it's just part of their body. I did not notice the lump on Balfi because it's one that I think only an experienced vet would be able to really feel for, but I can feel it now that he's lost weight. Not all lumps will be visible for pet owners, but it's worth just every now and then, just if they're having other symptoms like this, maybe give your ferret a feel to see if you can see something. But if you can't find it, that doesn't mean it's not there. Not all lumps are noticeable or can be felt even by vets. Sometimes they could only be confirmed through scans, so ultimately, a lot of us, well, a lot of the time, you'll get these symptoms grouped together. Whether it's like with bowel feeding, if it's the being lethargic and having weight loss and not eating grouped together. But he's got no fur changes. He's got no vomiting or behavioural changes really, apart from being tired. So it's important to get to know your ferret, what your ferret usually behaves like. Are they particularly feisty and playful, or are they a bit more laid back? And once you start to see changes in that behaviour, in how they act and seem, just keep an eye on it, keep a diary if you need to, track their weight maybe once a week. Don't worry too much about weight, it's more about the body shape, like how thin are they rather than like their weight, because it tends to fluctuate a lot. And overall, just keep an eye, and if you're at all worried, just call a vet, get a checkup appointment. It'll give you a peace of mind if there's nothing wrong. If there is something wrong, then you've likely caught it early. Ferrets are expensive, especially, I know here in the UK they are considered exotic, so vet bills are expensive. Don't let that put you off. Have insurance or savings and use them. I know it's scary to use up like emergency funds or savings or whatever, but you have to do it if it means, you know, helping out your ferrets. Speaking of, before I end this video, I do have a GoFundMe going on right now to help raise money for Balfi's treatments. We don't know exactly what the treatment will be yet, but I've used up over half of my emergency funds on vet bills and scans and all that. It's scary because I'm disabled. My work hours has been put down. I rent with my partner, and it's just, cost of living is insane right now, and it's very concerning. I want to be able to afford the treatment for Balthazar. It's likely going to be either surgery or steroid treatment for lymphoma, is what the vets are thinking. But it's going to be expensive, and I need to build that money back up. So there's a GoFundMe in the link in the description below. There's already over £100 raised, which I'm incredibly grateful for. You guys have no idea how much this means for me. So anything at all, be grateful. If not, all profits from my store will be going directly to funding his treatments. So if you don't feel like, if you wanna, instead of donating, if you want to buy a toy or treat or something from my store, the profits will go directly to Balthazar. So yeah, that's it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Just keep an eye on your babies, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.